Well, hello you. Welcome to another Slice of Hardware Good Think with Dave.
And Jacob.
Yes, and we're still going on about graphics cards and the impact that Nvidia's new RTX platform is going to have on the graphics market as a whole. And we're not just talking about having some sexy new shadows for Lara Croft to hide in and then do her murders. Why is she so into murders now?
Nope, today we're looking at how the ephemeral third player in the GPU game is going to deal with the big green graphics behemoth and do some future gazing.
Also known as guessing.
Into whether Intel's 2020 discrete graphics card is going to have anything useful to offer when it finally arrives.
Yes, Intel and graphics cards, two words you probably didn't ever expect to hear together again. But when Intel poached AMD's Raja Koduri last year, it announced that it was looking for his Core and Visual Computing Group to create high-end discrete graphics solutions, and recently doubled down on that, producing a SIGGRAPH sizzle reel for its gaming card, set to launch in 2020.
With the end of 2018 looming large, that's actually not too far away now. And with Intel's historic interest in graphics coming more on the compute side, and it's seemingly wanting back in on the AI deep learning dollar, there's a good chance Intel's discrete GPU could make some waves.
The reason Intel is creating a discrete GPU again is because of Nvidia. For a long time, Intel was the AI deep learning kingpin. All the maths was done on its big Intel CPUs, and in its conference, its engineers demoed ray tracing and machine learning all day long.
Intel was showing off real-time ray tracing at events a decade ago or more, until Nvidia worked out its 1,000-core GPUs could nail the parallelism necessary for such workloads far better than a measly 32-core server CPU.
So then Nvidia took over and has almost been running the machine learning scene ever since, and it has therefore been raking in all those sweet, sweet AI dollars. Now Intel wants back in. It knows the market, knows what it needs to do to get there, and now it has the team to make it happen.
With Raja Koduri heading up the graphics team and Jim Keller overseeing the wider silicon design of Intel chips, they're a pair of engineers inside of Intel with a wealth of experience making advanced GPU and CPU cores.
But we've been here before, haven't we?
As soon as anyone mentions Intel making a discrete graphics card, my first thought is, oh god, Larrabee. That was the codename for Intel's last attempt at making a discrete GPU for the graphics market, and it was a remarkable failure. Yeah,
such a failure it barely even made it out of the labs, let alone onto the market.
Larrabee was announced around 2008, set for a launch in 2010, and if the 2018 announcement for launch in 2020 sounds too much like history repeating, that's kind of our fear too.
The design was attempting to create a many-core GPU using multiple x86 cores, roughly analogous to the standard processors at the heart of most of our PCs. The idea was that the many-core design would allow for the sort of parallelism that makes AMD and Nvidia's GPUs so capable for compute tasks as well as graphics.
Along with the pseudo Pentium cores built inside the Larrabee GPU, there would be other fixed function logic blocks to do dedicated heavy lifting on the graphics side, potentially making for a powerful, flexible architecture.
And it all sounded great, and yet Intel just couldn't get it to work in any way that would make it competitive on the graphics side, so it just ended up in the hands of researchers who still couldn't get it computing in a way that didn't make them long for an Nvidia Tesla GPU to work on.
But the idea was sound and actually looks even more promising in today's environment, where GPU compute power is arguably becoming more important than raw rasterized rendering performance.
So Intel isn't going to be making an exact copy of Larrabee. It's unlikely to be using straight x86 cores in its design, and is expected to be taking something akin to the existing execution units that are used in its integrated graphics, and then spinning them out into their own dedicated GPU.
But the overall approach might well be similar. Make a many-core chip with a host of programmable cores that will give it the flexibility to cope with the demands of traditional rendering, as well as the increased focus on GPU compute power.
Chucking in a bit of fixed function logic into the mix will help on the graphics front, and, like Nvidia's new RT and Tensor cores, it could dedicate some specific silicon directly to workloads such as inference and ray tracing too.
As we said earlier, Intel have been showing off ray tracing in games for years, and while Wolfenstein in 2010 looks very different to Wolfenstein in 2018, it shows the understanding is there with the Knights Ferry chips, those server parts derived from Larrabee, to undertake the task.
The learnings are there within Intel. It just needs to take that experience and apply it to its new graphics architecture coming in 2020.
But Intel couldn't be the company to drive ray tracing forward. There was no way it could aim to create a new discrete GPU in 2020 and at the same time try and foster a compute-based ray tracing ecosystem on its own.
With Microsoft and Nvidia taking that software-hardware step right now, at a time where there is little GeForce competition and therefore less pressure on its immediate success, that ecosystem will be far more mature if Intel does actually manage to get a new card out in 2020.
With a dedicated DirectX API and a target to aim for, Intel can tune its new GPU architecture for a future where there are more games taking advantage of a broader range of compute workloads built out of the graphics card.
And what if Intel does manage to get both its software and hardware stacks aligned, which was something it failed to do with Larrabee? What if it can then create a discrete GPU with more compute oomph than Nvidia's 2nd Gen RTX cards? Even if it doesn't have the traditional rendering power of the competition, it might still be faster overall at the advanced hybrid rasterized ray tracing techniques.
And that could give it an edge in a world where more and more games are taking advantage of non-traditional graphics workloads.
Of course, it's all largely speculation at the moment. Apart from the SIGGRAPH sizzle, Intel hasn't really said word one about what it has planned for its first discrete graphics card.
But if Intel can nail the compute side, something which is definitely in the company's wheelhouse, it might not matter if it isn't a rasterized rendering monster. Only time will tell, but having a third player in the graphics game can only be a good thing, especially if it can become even remotely competitive.
Right, so thanks for watching, and if you like or vehemently disagree with what you've seen, even if it's just a complaint about Jacob's sometimes maverick pronunciation, then give us a like, comment and subscribe for more PC gaming and hardwareism at PCGamesN.
Bye!